Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhetamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shante Shante Shante. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Sarasvati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupine Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Samasta Janakalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Mukam karoti vachalam Pangum langhayate girim Yat kripatamaham vande Paramananda Madhavam. Paramananda Madhavam. Okay, so we'll read from what we did last time. We will read from verse number 59. Okay, so let's go ahead from 59 to verse number 61. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipashchitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matparaha vashe hi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. So last time we finished that portion which talks about how does a Sthitaprajna sit? How does a person of steady wisdom sit? Just like everybody else, Sthitaprajna sits quietly. But what's different about the quietude is that it is effortless. We have to put so much effort to be quiet, but they're effortlessly quiet. Not only that, we withdraw our senses. Sthitaprajna withdraws their senses also. But what happens is, for the Sthitaprajna, even the rasa or the taste is gone. What happens to you and I is we try to suppress for a while. So all of our cravings, all of our desires for the world, we try to withdraw it for a moment and sit quietly. Sometimes we're successful. Sometimes the mind goes in so many places that we are, even if we're sitting quietly, the mind would have gone to 24 places already in 5 minutes, isn't it? Why is that? Because even if our senses are withdrawn, the rasa or the taste craving is there. For Sthitaprajna, that rasa, that craving for the world, that has also gone. That has gone. And that makes all the difference. So in verse 59, we saw that yes, When in life we shy away from things or we move away from things, they stop coming to us. We unsubscribe from something. We do not hang out with a group of people for a certain amount of time. They stop calling us also. People stop sending us things. People stop calling us when we kind of just move away from society. Yes, everything moves away from us also because we pull ourselves out. But is that a true introversion? Is it true? It's only true if even the vasana is taken away. Even the vasana goes. Because there's nothing worse than being a pretend yogi, than being pretentious that, yes, I'm ready to go within and I'm going to do it, but the mind is full of desire. That is called mithyachara, that we will see in chapter 3. So for this yogi, that vasana has gone. How has it gone? Param drishtva nivartate. Upon realizing the truth, the vasanas go. Sometimes people ask this question: is it that the vasanas go and then we realize the truth? Or is it that we realize the truth and then the vasanas go? What happens? What exactly happens is this. For the realization of truth, the vasanas are kept in abeyance. They're kept in abeyance, meaning they're kept in the background, because a certain amount of purity and focus of mind is required to realize the truth. So they're kept in the background and they're weakened, they're thinned out. And once they're thinned out, realization takes place. And after realization, those vasanas are rooted out. They're not only thinned out, but they're rooted out after realization. This is what happens. So to realize the truth, a certain amount of thinning the vasanas is required. And this is why we do nididhyasana, or contemplation. This topic will also come up after, but this is the premise of it. So first they're thinned out, and after realization, they are rooted out. Now, in the 60th verse, it says, what if this person, does not have the rasa removed? What if the craving still remains? If the craving is still there, then what happens is the senses will violently capture the mind, because the world is full of sights and sounds and forms and pleasing things. So if that vasana is there, our senses can be captured by them. Be sure of it. And they are turbulent. They'll just capture it without us even knowing we're captured. Then the problem is, somebody says, what do I do? I'm not a Sthitaprajna. It's not that my vasanas are gone or thinned out. I'm just a regular seeker, and it is very hard because, yes, the sense objects are so tempting. They are capturing my mind. What do I do? What do I do? So Lord Krishna says, don't despair. In verse 61, he says, you become matparaha. And this matparaha word is very important. Matparaha means become a seeker who loves me, who starts to love the higher. Spend more time thinking about the higher, immersed in the higher, listening, reading about the higher. Just spend more time engaged in the higher. Then what happens is the lower drops. And this method we saw is called sublimation. There is a method of suppression wherein we forcefully restrain ourselves from the engaging in the world. But that could be very painful. That's out of force. And sometimes we want to fight back also. We don't like that. So what he says here is do it out of love. Because you're so engaged in something higher, automatically the lower things, they start to drop off. You don't even have to put effort in it. It just goes. It just goes by itself. That is called love. And love is the secret of all spiritual sadhana. As I said, we do not have to so much work on each quality. I need to be better at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. I need to be better at these things. Let that go. Just love. Keep the mind, keep the senses engaged in the higher. Love the higher. Love the higher, and automatically we will see everything becomes disciplined. Everything falls into place. That love for the higher is called matparaha. You become devoted to me, love the higher, love the truth, and everything will be samyamya, everything will be controlled. And of this person then, their prajna is pratishtita, their wisdom is steady. So how does a Sthitaprajna sit? Effortlessly withdrawing his or her senses, with even the craving or the vasana gone. How does a seeker sit? Sitting quietly, with effort, trying to withdraw their senses, but having that love in their heart, which we call madparaha. Now the question comes, what happens if we do not have this love or devotion for the higher? What happens when the senses steal away the mind? When the senses steal away the mind, we fall. And so verses 62 and 63 we will read together. This portrays the ladder of fall of one who does not have that love. Okay, so let us read these two verses. They're very important verses. The whole psychology of how somebody falls in the world is in these verses. Right. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha.
Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha.
Sangasteshu pajayate.
Sangasteshu pajayate.
Sangat sanjayate kamaha.
Sangat sanjayate kamaha.
Kamat krodho bhijayate.
Kamat krodho vijayate.
Krodhat bhavati sambohaha.
Krodhat bhavati sammohaha.
Sammohat smriti vibhramaha.
Sammohat smriti vibhramaha.
Smriti bhramshat buddhinashaha.
Smriti Bhramshat Buddhinashaha.
Buddhinashat pranashyati.
Buddhinashat Pranashyati.
Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha. Sangasteshu pajayate. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. Kamat krodha bhijayate. Krodhat bhavati sambohaha. Sambohat smriti vibhramaha. Smriti bhramshat buddhinashaha. Buddhinashat pranashyati. Dhyayataha. Thinking about vishayan, thinking about objects, pumsaha, of this seeker, of this person who's thinking about objects, sangaha teshu upajayate. Sangaha, attachment, teshu, in them, upajayate, rises. Sangat. From that attachment, sanjayate. What is born? Kamaha. Desire is born from attachment. Kamat krodaha abhijayate. And from that desire, anger, abhijayate, arises. Krodaha is anger, abhijayate, arises. Krodhat bhavati. From anger, sammohaha, comes delusion. Sammohat, from delusion, smriti vibhramaha, loss of memory. And from smriti bhramshat, from loss of memory, buddhinashaha, destruction of discrimination. Buddhinashat, from the destruction of discrimination, pranashyati, the seeker perishes. So this is how we fall. Now I will give you an acronym to make this easier. What you're going to do is 4 das. Da, 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 da. Okay? This is all you have to remember. Da, 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 da. Okay? And what do you have to remember? The first D is dwell. Then attach. Okay? Dwell, attach. Then desire, anger. This is the second pair. Desire, anger. The third pair, delusion, amnesia. Delusion and amnesia. The fourth pair, destruction of the intellect and annihilation. So these are 8 things that happen. And if you just remember da, 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 da will happen. Okay, that you know that the seeker is falling. So how do we fall? The first step of falling is we dwell on an object. Now, some people might say this dwelling is harmless, right? You see an object, you think about it, it's harmless. You're just looking at it. Not exactly. No. When we say dwell, it means there's a continuous flow of thought towards that object, that person, or that situation. There's a constant dwelling. So you will see in our advertisements, if you go on the New York City subway, you will literally see the same picture 10 times. Maybe they'll change a color or something, but it's the same thing 10 times. Or if you see an ad on the TV, the logo will keep appearing again and again and again. Because the advertising people, they read Bhagavad Gita. they know how we can fall. So in any advertisement, the trick is they will keep repeating things. And now it's so much that if you go search the web, the same thing will keep popping up again and again and again, right? The same advertisement. Then you have to say, why did this ad come? This is what happens. So when we dwell continuously, it creates an impression. Creates an impression in mind. So the first is we do this. We dwell on the world instead of dwelling on God. We dwell on the world. What happens when we dwell on the world? Attachment. So dwelling, attachment. What is this attachment? That this will make me happy. Remember, I plus blank equals fulfillment or happiness. I, the ego, plus blank is fulfillment or happiness. So we have somehow that notion that this will make me very happy. This will make me complete. So what's happening here? It's our own thought that's making us think that we lack something. This is what advertisement wants us to do. It's a thought. They want to create a thought in us that makes us think we're missing out on something. And without it, our life is sad. A very basic example I'll give you is soap. Now soap, we've been using the same soap maybe for 5-10 years. We've been using the same soap, right? Big deal. One time then we went on, we were watching something, some commercial. some maybe supermodel, some Katrina Kaif or Priyanka Chopra, somebody, and they're using a new soap, Lux. And they're using this new soap, Lux, and then so you watch that ad, what's the next thing you think? And in that ad, they'll show you before they used Lux, how is their skin? And after they use Lux, how is their skin? After watching that ad, what are you thinking? I should get that Lux also, right? I should get that Lux so that my skin will also look good. I need that Lux. That's what we're thinking. This is a very, very basic example. Very basic example. So this attachment is that the thought that's created that makes us think that without this, I'm going to be sad. So I need this to be happy. You just created that thought. That advertisement created that thought. Then what happens? Desire. Then I want that thing. I want that thing. That I want is a firm desire. So you'll see first here, it says upajayate. Attachment slowly came. But then desire is born. You know, so in attachment, it's just little bit. It's this notion of I'll be happy if I get it. Desire is so firm. Sanjayate, samyak jayate, means I have to have it. And so when one has this desire, you know what desire does? It drives us crazy. It drives us crazy. And it stands in front of us saying that you got to get me. You got to get me. Go out and get me. And if you don't, you won't be fulfilled. You won't be peaceful. That desire creates so much agitation that we have to go out and act. We have to go out and act because otherwise we cannot sit. We have to go do it. So this is what desire does. And later on, I'll give you an example of all of this in one go. Then, after we desire something, we act. What happens is, sometimes we don't get what we want. Because this is life, right? So many people demand, but the supply is less in some cases. So sometimes we don't get what we want. Or sometimes we get what we want, but not in the way that we want it. Or sometimes we get it, but we didn't get it again. So whenever there is an obstacle between me and my desire, what happens is called anger. That's the next A, anger. Anger is that emotion, which is, it happens, why? Because there's an obstacle between me and my object of desire. And when there is an obstacle, I get angry. I get angry. And the deeper my desire, the more the anger. So if my desire was very petty, okay, fine, let's get it. If not, okay. If very petty, there won't be much anger. If the desire was so strong, the anger will be equally strong. These two are proportionate to each other. Now what happens? So we saw dwelling, we saw attachment, we saw desire, we saw anger. What happens when we get angry? What happens when we get angry is what's called sammoha or delusion. When we get angry, we are deluded, which means we do not assess the pros and cons of the situation. We do not assess the consequences of the situation. We start making things up in our head, which couldn't even be true. This delusion is what we call aviveka. We lack that clarity of thinking. So you will find that in anger, because we get deluded, we say things we don't mean, or we do things we don't mean, or we say things in a mean way. And what happens when we're deluded? We're deluded by that anger because When we're in a fit of anger, we can't think. We can't think. We lose all of our thinking capacity. This is what happens. We get deluded. The next A is amnesia. Amnesia, there's complete forgetfulness. There's forgetfulness of the knowledge that we are learning in the Bhagavad Gita. That knowledge is forgotten. There's forgetfulness of my purpose in life. What am I to do here as a seeker? There's forgetfulness in that the overall goal is the realization of the truth. Forgotten. There's a forgetfulness of that relationship. When I'm angry with, let's say we are angry with our spouse, our partner, our children, whoever, what happens is we say things we don't mean and we forget. We've been married 20 years, 25 years. We forget how precious that relationship is. That one little incident takes precedence over 25 years of relationship. We get into a fit with our children, and again, that one incident takes precedence over 12, 13 years of raising this child. So when we're angry, we get deluded and we have amnesia. We forget. We forget all of these things. And because we forget, this leads to the next D, which is destruction of intellect. Buddhinasha, destruction of intellect. Because the intellect is based on memory. That's why when people lose their memory, it's hard for them to act properly, in a proper way, because they've lost their memory. Our intellect is based on memory. So when that memory is gone, when there's that forgetfulness of our purpose, of our relationships, forgetfulness of our goal in life, then that intellect doesn't work. It doesn't work. That capacity to think clearly, it's gone. And when that goes, the last A is annihilation. Means it's destruction. Pranashyati. One, that person falls. The person is destroyed. The person, even you can say A is like an animal. Because what makes the difference between a human and an animal is that a human has an evolved intellect. When we do not anymore have that evolved intellect, we are just like animals. What's the difference? This is how a person falls. So now I'm going to match the Sanskrit with the English. So those who are following both languages can follow. Okay? Dhyayataha. Dhyayataha means dwelling. That's the first. We dwell on objects. Sangaha. That sangaha is that attachment. When I see that as an object of happiness, and my mind creates this false notion that I need that to be complete. Then kamaha is that desire. The desire is that firm notion, I want it. And then krodha is anger. Anger because I didn't get it. I didn't get it the way I wanted. There's an obstruction. Then sammohaha. That sammohaha is delusion. Then smriti vibhramaha. That smriti vibhramaha is amnesia or loss of memory. Buddhinashaha is destruction of intellect. Because the intellect, it relies on memory. Then pranashyati is annihilation. Annihilation or becoming an animal. And so this is how we fall. Now, let's just inquire into how we avoid this whole rut. How do we avoid this fall? So from step 1, dwell on the divine. The more, again, that my mind is dwelling on the divine, then the more that my mind will be in a positive light, cheerful, pleasant. And we will see these verses also coming up. It's prasada. It will be very cheerful. So the more that I dwell in God, in divinity, in the truth, the less of this will happen. When the world is attracting me more, it means my love for God has become less. When the world is attracting me less and less, it means that my love for God is more and more and more. And our primary dharma is to keep our minds in that love, keep our hearts in that truth. Let's say we did dwell on an object. Let's say we did dwell on the world for so long, and we just kept thinking about it and created an impression. Now be careful of these impressions, because once they get deep, very hard to take them out. Though it is dwelling in that impression, what do I do? Then don't see happiness there. Think and think again, like in Bhaja Govinda, what we call Pratipaksha Bhavana. Pratipaksha Bhavana means seeing the other side of it, or having like an X-ray vision. When you go to a doctor's office, if you want to see what's happening in the chest, you take a chest X-ray. When you see, if you go to the dentist, you want to see what's happening in your teeth, you take a dental X-ray. Now they take X-ray all the time that you visit. They take X-ray, right? So like that, when I really want to look at the world, look at it X-ray. What is there in the world? What is there for you and I to enjoy it? What's there? What's there? What's really, really in this world? Look at it with that deep X-ray vision. In chapters 8 and 9, this will come. Anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam. Gaining this world that's impermanent, that is full of sorrow. Seek me. Because what we will find when we do this X-ray vision, we will find it is full of impermanence and sorrow. We'll find that. So if ever we are dwelling, we find ourselves dwelling, put that X-ray vision. Is it really going to make me happy? Is it really what I need? Is it really going to get me towards my goal? Put that there. If a desire arises, if I fail to put that X-ray vision, I failed to do that X-ray vision, I was not alert, a desire came, then at least make that desire selfless. At least put a selfless touch to it. If I must have that desire, put a selfless touch to it. So at least it's exhausting a vasana. And it's not incurring new vasanas. Now, what happens? I failed in that also. I desired, and it was a selfish desire, and it's a strong desire, and I didn't get what I want. Anger came. What do we do now when anger comes? This anger will come again and again, the Bhagavad Gita. So every time it comes, we will look at anger. When anger comes, just pause. Just at least if we can pause, just stop for a moment. Take a walk, drink some water, get some fresh air. Just stop for a moment. Just stop. Or hold your breath, do your japa, do whatever it is to make you stop and pause. Because if we don't do that, so many things will come out of our mouth, so many things will come out of our actions, which we will regret later. So the best thing to do with that anger is to just walk away, take a breath of fresh air, drink some water, just pause, if I must be angry, I am angry. I am angry. What do I do? If we must be angry, then this is also how to be angry. If we must be angry, how to be angry? Okay, you be angry at the situation, but not at the person. So in this situation, it's hurt me, I feel bad, I'm angry about it. Be angry at the situation, but not at the person. Huh? Don't reduce the person to a situation. Remember, a person is always greater than situations. So if you must express anger, you express it at the situation. This I did not like, this was not okay, this is uncalled for. But don't put that on the person, or don't let that supersede the person. This will be very, very helpful so that we don't hold any grudges. Because we know in life that we're bound to have disagreements with people. We're bound to have different ways of thinking. We're bound to have all of these things with people, but don't let that situation overtake the person. So that's a tip on how to be angry. And Gurudev has an even greater tip. Gurudev's greater tip is that sometimes if one must demonstrate anger, then demonstrate it, but don't become angry. And so that's what Gurudev did. It's not that he had anger. There were some times where he had to demonstrate it to maybe put someone back on the path of discipline. And so he used it, and then when he didn't need it, it wasn't there anymore. So that's what happens with anger. Now, this happens, we got angry and we got deluded. So in this part of delusion, again, stop. Again, just bring yourself to a point where you can think clearly. That's all. That's all. If we're falling, after this, there's no more go. We will really, really, really fall. So after this, just bring ourselves to a point where we can relax, we can be at peace, where we can think clearly. That's all. If you can do that much, you're doing a lot. You will do a lot. You will save a lot of regret, a lot of guilt, a lot of harsh words, harsh thoughts. You will save a lot of that. So that's all. Just be in a place, find a situation to calm yourself down, whatever that may be. And this will help us greatly in the spiritual path. So this is how we fall. This is also how we're able to hold ourselves steady if we do fall. This example is seen very beautifully in the story of Narada. Narad Muni, he is a brilliant rishi. He has some stories where he does some crazy things, but he's a brilliant rishi because he is the one who's changed Ratnakar into Valmiki. He's the one who inspired Veda Vyasaji to write Bhagavatam. So he's done so much in our culture. One of the episodes goes like this in Ramayana. This happens in Tulasi Ramayana. And there are so many lessons to this story, but I'm going to try my best to focus on those lessons which are related to this stanza, these verses. Naraji was sitting in meditation. He was sitting in meditation, and at that time, Kamadeva came and tempted him, with various people, various objects, various beings, tempted him with various things, and his mind even didn't go there. It didn't go there. And he didn't even get angry at Kamadeva for tempting him or anything like that. And so when he got out of meditation, Kamadeva was very pleased with him and said, "Oh, you didn't get tempted." And so Naraji developed what we call spiritual pride. Yeah, I didn't get tempted. I have conquered anger. I have conquered lust. So he develops this pride and he goes to Lord Shiva and he says, this is what happened, Lord Shiva. I mean, first of all, when you're in front of Lord Shiva, you can't talk about yourself. That's like crime number one. So he went to Lord Shiva and he said, "Lord Shiva, this is what happened. I was sitting quietly. Kamadeva came and I wasn't even tempted and I didn't even get angry." And Lord Shiva says, "Whatever you do, do not tell Lord Vishnu this. Don't tell him." What does Naraji, what does he do? He goes to tell Lord Vishnu. The first thing he does, he says, "I have to tell Lord Vishnu. I have to tell Lord Vishnu." So he tells Lord Vishnu, he's so excited. He says, "Lord Vishnu, this is what happened. And I didn't get tempted. I didn't get angry." And Lord Vishnu says, "Okay, I will do whatever is good for you." And so Lord Vishnu brings about his Maya. And before you know it, Naraji sees this big, wonderful, wonderful city, big city. And in that city, there's a palace and there's a kingdom. And he's going towards the kingdom. And the king has a beautiful daughter. And her name is Vishwamohini. And so they all welcome Narad Rishi. They say, "Please, please come to the kingdom." And they say, "Please read her, charts. And we want her to get married." So Naraji, reads her charts, but he's enamored by this girl. He's enamored by her. And all he's thinking is, how do I get married to her? Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha. He saw Vishwamohini and he's dwelling on her. And then what happens is he feels like, I need her in my life. I need to be with her. And so he says, "That's it. I want to marry her. I have to ask Lord Vishnu." Now he forgets. He forgets he's a seeker of truth. He forgets he's a devotee of God. Everything's forgotten. He goes to Lord Vishnu. He says, "I want to marry this Vishwamohini. And I ask for your beauty. Please grant me your beauty." And so Lord Vishnu says, "Okay, I'll grant you your beauty. My beauty, I'll grant it to you." Now, Lord Vishnu, Hari means Lord Vishnu, but Hari also means monkey. Hari also means form. So Lord Vishnu gave him the form of a monkey, gave him a monkey face, but he didn't know about it. And so when he went to that Swayambara of Vishwamohini, there were two Shiva Ganas there, dressed as Brahmanas, and they could see his form as a monkey. Nobody else could see it, just those two Shiva Ganas and that Vishwamohini. And they were just praising his form. And when Vishwamohini saw his form, she shied away. She didn't want to go near it. Meanwhile, Narad Rishi's thinking that he is so handsome. He looks like Lord Vishnu. Why isn't she coming to me? Why isn't she marrying me? But she kept moving away from him. And finally, Lord Vishnu himself came and married Vishwamohini. Oh my gosh. Naraji was so upset. And the Shiva Gana said, "Narad, come here. Look at your face in that water." And he saw in the water his face was of a monkey. And so he got so angry. So this is what happened. His dwelling got attached, desire, and that desire, there was an obstacle. He got so angry because Lord Vishnu gave him a form of a monkey, and Lord Vishnu married this Vishwamohini. And when he went to Lord Vishnu, guess what he did? He cursed him. He said these words, which were, so unreasonable. And he said, how could you do this to me? And who do you think you are? You think that just because you're God, you can do anything? And he said to Lord Vishnu, I curse you, that because you gave me the form of a monkey, you will be around monkeys. And because you kept me separate from this beautiful woman, you will be separated from your wife. And he says all of these things. And Lord Vishnu says, okay, tathastu. And after all of this happened, he realized his mistake. He said, oh my God, what did I do? Lord Vishnu took away all his Maya. So the palace was gone, Vishvamohini was gone, everything was gone. Lord Vishnu took away his Maya. And Naraji said, what did I do? I lost it. I fell. And Naraji said, yep, that's what happens. Lord Vishnu said, yep, that's what happens. So Naraji realized his fall. And he asked Lord Vishnu, now what do I do? Lord Vishnu said, there's nothing you can do. Now that you have cursed me, I will take avatar as Sri Rama. And that's why Sri Rama is born. One of the reasons is to fulfill the curse of Narada. I will take avatar as Sri Rama. And Naraji said, but I want to absolve myself from all of these things that I thought. Then Lord Vishnu said, take the name of Lord Shiva and worship Lord Shiva. And so Naraji went about worshipping Lord Shiva. Now this is a story to tell us how this verse comes to life. Huh? It all started with Naraji's spiritual pride. That spiritual pride, that happened. And because of that, Bhagavan put on his Leela. Naraji was dwelling on Vishvamohini, that he wanted to be with her. There was an obstacle, which is Lord Vishnu. And in that obstacle, he lost all of his clarity, his viveka. He lost that. And he lost his memory. He forgot that he was a devotee of God. He was a seeker of God. He forgot all of that. And he said these words to Lord Vishnu. And he fell. But the most beautiful thing is, Bhagavan lifted him up again. So in life, we may fall, we may slip, but as long as we are still connected to God, even when we fall, God will lift us back up, just like he did with Naraji. So this is the ladder fall. Now, someone might ask, gosh, this is how a Sthitaprajna doesn't fall. This is how we fall. So how is it now that the Sthitaprajna sits? Can you give us the summary of how a Sthitaprajna sits? Because we're answering, remember the question, Kim Asit. So let's not derail from that point too much. We're answering Kim Asit. How a Sthitaprajna sits quietly, sits effortlessly, senses withdrawn, without that vasana, without that craving, and ever dwelling on God and not the world. How does a seeker sit? Sits quietly, but with effort, withdrawing the senses. And yes, sometimes the craving can be there. And if that craving is not sublimated to the higher, or what we call matparaha, if it's not sublimated to the higher, then even that seeker will fall. Even that seeker will fall in da. That's how that seeker falls. Now, we'll just touch upon the next verse a little bit. And then we can pick up in our next session. The next stage now, or the next question asked about the Sthitaprajna is, how does the Sthitaprajna move about in the world? So, Sthitaprajnasya ka bhasha. What is the description of the Sthitaprajna? Samadhistasya Keshava, the one who's in samadhi. Sthitaprajna prabhasheta. What prompts their speech? That we have seen. Kimasita. How do they sit? That we have seen. Now, vrajeta kim. How does the Sthitaprajna move about in the world? So let us touch upon verse number 64. Ragadvesha viyuktaistu.
Ragadvesha viyuktaistu.
Vishayanindriyaishcharan.
Vishayanindriyaishcharan.
Atmavashyervidheyatma.
Atmavaishyaiर्vidheyatma.
Prasadamadigatchati.
Prasadamadigatchati.
Ragadvesha viyuktaistu. Vishayanindriyaishcharan. Atmavashyervidheyatma. Prasadamadigatchati. How a Sthitaprajna moves about the world. Ragadvesha viyuktehi, free from attraction and repulsion, or likes and dislikes. Indriyehi, so with the senses, free from attraction and repulsion. Charan vishayan, but moving about the sense objects. Atmavashyehi, those sense organs, indriyas, have become restrained. Vidheyatma, the Sthitaprajna is self-controlled. Prasadam adhigacchati, the Sthitaprajna attains peace. So here you will see this word Atma, Atma again and again. When we see this word Atma in the Bhagavad Gita, it doesn't always mean the self. So you have to take it into context. In Atma Vashyaihi, self-restraint means the mind, intellect are self-restrained or controlled. Vidheyatma, again, the mind, intellect are controlled. So Atma here means mind, intellect. So how this sentence reads, the self-controlled man, moving about objects with his sense under restraint and free from both attraction and repulsion, attains peace. I will just tell you a short story of Socrates, and then next class we will dive into what exactly likes and dislikes are. There was an anecdote about Socrates that he used to go to the bazaar. He used to go to the bazaar, every time he would go, and he wouldn't buy anything. So everyone in town was wondering, why does Socrates keep doing this? Going to the bazaar all the time, but then he doesn't buy anything. So they told him, Socrates, either you don't go or you buy something. Everybody is just wondering, when are you going to buy something? For a shopkeeper who has a store, when the customers come and they don't buy, they get very annoyed. And this customer always comes, but doesn't buy. What is that? So they said, why do you do all of that? He said, it's simple. I go there to see how happy I can be without all of these things in the bazaar. This is why I go there. I go there to see, wow, how happy I am without all of these things. This is Ragadvesha Viyuktehi. So for this holiday season, try this. Go to a shop, go to a place, and be there without getting anything. Feel that the happiness really comes from within, and feel how happy we can be without all of these things, actually. Okay, so today we stop here. I wanted to do more, but I wasn't sure how long Ladder of Fall will take. It's a very beautiful verse. Please think about it again and again and again. And if we reflect upon it deep enough, then we won't fall. Or even if we do fall, we'll be able to catch ourselves quicker. But remember the key. The key is to always dwell on the higher. Keep our mind on the higher. Don't keep your mind in the gutter. Keep it in Bhagavad, in the truth, in Vedanta. Okay. So we'll say the closing prayer, and I have a few announcements. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om